I am so excited to introduce Catherine and then take off that hat and go on a really important panel. So first, a little bit about Catherine. We're going to be talking about re-recruiting women in the workplace. And I'm Catherine Bruni is a future workplace fellow, importantly, and the lead faculty on two of our courses, designing a holistic employee experience and nurturing employee well-being. Catherine is also the former SVP of benefits and well-being at Truist, a major bank in Atlanta, Charlotte area in the Southeast, as well as launching her own business, WorkSprouts. So Catherine, thank you so much for bringing together all of us. And I think importantly, Catherine is a working mom, juggling lots of balls. So thank you so much, Catherine, for pulling us together on this important topic.
Oh, well, thank you for that intro. I think you're right. My number one job is the two people that are outside this door right here. And I think a lot of us can probably relate to that. So thank you for giving us time today to address this issue. And, it's interesting, I think the last 14, 15 months has really put a lot of new maybe not their old questions, but a new lens on them into a lot of HR shops. And so I think women in the workplace is absolutely one of those that's received some highlighting, and maybe not in a great way over the last year. So Jean, you made I think you said this stat in your opening comments, and I think it's a great one. The National Women's Law Center put out a report that said that 2.3 million women have left the workforce since February 2020. And, this is the lowest participation rate for females in the workforce since 1988. And so if you think back, if we all take a minute and think about where we were in 1988, there's a sense of loss for what, the progress that we've seen over the last 33 years. And, that progress wasn't without some very intentional work. And so I think we're back at this spot where we need to be very intentional about how we think about women in the workplace. And so I'm so pleased to have two amazing other women join our panel here who are doing this and have created and built solutions that are meant to help address our female labor force. And so I hope your cameras are on. I'm happy to introduce Tilly Hidalgo Lima, who is the CEO of Best Upon Request. Best Upon Request is a concierge and errand running service. They partner with businesses and with healthcare organizations. And so we'll learn a little bit about their mission and their successful work. We also have Teresa Tanner with us, who is the founder and CEO of Reserve Squad. And so Reserve Squad works with companies to keep their female talent engaged and really leveraged during times when women need to take a break and maybe address family issues. And so we talk about how do you kind of bridge that time for them. Teresa is also the former chief admin officer at Fifth Third Bank, which will be part of the story that we'll share around particularly the maternity experience. And of course, Jean, love to hear your thoughts as well on this particular topic. And we're actually going to start with you, if you don't mind. So I really kind of want to set the stage here. As I mentioned, the last 14, 15 months has brought a lot of interesting topics to light. I think the humanization of our employees, the rise and kind of the discussion and realization around essential workers. We think about women hold a lot of roles within kind of non-flexible or those essential areas like healthcare, food services, customer service. And so help us really get an appreciation of what's happened and how this issue of women in the labor force has really kind of come to the forefront over the last year.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Well, thank you for flashing us back to 1988, and it's a telling statistic, isn't it? I'm going to flash us back to April of 2020, when what we were all talking about, and I was one of them, of how COVID has accelerated all the existing workplace trends. And in fact, the CEO of Microsoft predicted or said that he's seen 2 years of digital transformation in the last 2 months. And so we were at that point a year ago really talking about the digitization of what we were going through as a workforce transformation. And I think where we are today, we're talking about the human consequences of that massive transformation that we've all lived and experienced, right? And one of the biggest ones has been the exiting of a valuable part of our workforce, our female leaders. The other implication for many of us in this on this meeting, many of us are in the HR and corporate talent and learning roles. And I think we have stepped up to the challenge. And I like to think and say that HR leaders have also become essential workers. It's not just medical and police and fire that have worked overtime. HR leaders are now essential workers in working with other leaders in the organization, facilities, well-being leaders in planning a safe return to the workplace. So I think that, how does this all impact women? I think women working moms especially have found it very difficult to manage remote work along with managing homeschooling. And it's, I think some companies, some leaders are acknowledging this. I point to one, Hewlett Packard, which has a whole infrastructure now to help families, right, on managing homeschooling. They've contracted with a group of substitute teachers because they realize that this is nearly another full-time job that working moms have. So I think we have to sort of look back and now more than ever the focus is on employee well-being, and that's how we're going to retain our women in the workforce. And for those women that don't have the luxury of working remotely, we all do, and we're sitting in front of our Zoom links, but think of all the women that don't have that luxury, if you will, that work on the front line. I think employers need to create flexible options for them. Either it's flexible shifts or job sharing, or some way to acknowledge that this is an extraordinary once in a generation time that we're living in, and that we have to address well-being in an inclusive fashion for both knowledge workers and for frontline workers.
I love that. And I love kind of this, the leaning into well-being, which I think, Tilly and Teresa would love to pull you into the conversation here. I mean, what's really changing as far as expectations from employees? I mean, when we think about well-being, which happens to be, my passion, it's evolved a lot in the last, I'd even say 5 years, certainly 10, as far as the role that employers play in that space. So I'd love to hear some perspective about how you're seeing kind of employee expectations changing, and kind of the future of that.
So thanks for having me, Catherine. I'm Tilly, and Jean, nice to see you again. I would say employees today want their employers to provide a safe environment, an environment where they can feel comfortable talking about their home life, their work life, and how that all integrates. And so this past year, we've had a lot of conversations about what is work-life balance, what is work-life integration, and how we as an employer can really be mindful, intentional, as you said, about creating a safe place, a place where emotional safety can help mitigate some of the burnout so that we can talk about some of the ways that the stressors in our lives are impacting our productivity.
Yeah, I would agree, Tilly. And I think that, work-life balance has taken on a whole new meaning over the last year, right? And I just think about, my kids are grown, but these mothers who tried to keep a full-time job and be the educator and keep the kids from going stir crazy. I don't know how they did it, right? I don't know. And unfortunately, this isn't going to change overnight. I think that there might be some who believe, oh, the vaccines are out, things can go back to normal now, but that's not the reality. The infrastructure has collapsed. And we saw that last year. Daycares closed and schools are still not going back at full capacity. And so it's going to take a long time for the support infrastructure to come back for families. This we know has a disproportionate impact on women, but also men. So how do we support families different today than we did in the past? And what does it mean to thrive at work? How do you thrive when you are being that hybrid parent and student, or I mean, teacher and, employee? What tools do we give people? And, I think that we have to lean in to say, the future of work is here, and the pandemic has forever shifted the way we're going to need to think about employee connection and culture. How do you shape culture in the future? How do you make sure people stay connected and not feeling like they're on an island? How do we handle the mental health issues that we've seen emerge last year? So I really do think that this is, although it's been a tough year, in a lot of ways, it has really accelerated our thinking around how do we engage the workforce and how do we care for the workforce of tomorrow very differently than how we have in the past.
Yeah, Teresa, I think you probably put about 20 questions out there that we're all trying to solve for. But that's kind of the point, is it's a very complex equation, right? There's a lot of factors going on here. I think one of you touched on something around, it's a lot of us are going back to the office, the place of work, yet some of the infrastructure pieces aren't there. And so it really is this kind of mixed environment, ecosystem, if you will, that we're all navigating through. I've been reading where there's concern around kind of this inequity of men and women deciding to physically go back into the office. And so we'll see, they're projecting that because of a lot of the domestic load resides with mom, that women are opting more for a hybrid work model, and men will probably go back to the office sooner or more frequently. And so we can kind of project out what that would mean then over time. So less visibility, out of sight, out of mind. When I think about, boss coming out of his or her office and saying, I need help, who's here? Who do I see? Succession planning, performance management, I mean, all those things. Tilly, let's talk about best upon request. I mean, this is a great solution that's really kind of a levels the playing field, quite frankly, for men and women. So talk to us a little bit about how something like a best upon request solution can make hybrid work a choice and not necessarily something that I have to do.
Well, best upon request, or BEST for short, is really a resource that can be leveraged wherever you are, anywhere. So whether you're at home in your home office or whether you're at the office, you can leverage the services of best upon request. And so the outcome is you're truly present to reduce those personal stressors that are distracting. And you mentioned the workload on women. That's called the second shift. And so today that second shift is like all day long and at night because of the way that the workload has been. And having a concierge service that supports you, that is provided by your employer, really lets you offload whatever's on your to-do list. And it can be professional as well as personal. And that could be something as, can someone go pick up my Kroger click list, my grocery pickup, and bring it home so that I don't have to get the kids in the car to go pick it up. Or it could be, I need my oil changed and I don't have time in between Zoom meetings. Or planning my child's birthday party because it's coming up and I didn't order on Amazon everything I needed for the theme party, you know? So women carrying this mental load takes up so much mind space because that never ending to-do list is always running. And so when you have a concierge, she or he can manage that household labor that also includes your family. So having a concierge and an errand running service like Best Upon Request is a tangible, meaningful way to get help. And that help is that helping hand that some of our clients, our customers, excuse me, say, this is the wife I never had, or even single moms are saying, this is the husband who takes, my car to get service, take it to the mechanic because I don't know anything about my car. And when they're telling me something that I really need, or just telling me because they want me to spend more money. So as a result of offloading that meaningful work that is done by a concierge results in less stress, and with that, peace of mind. And there's been a lot of anxiety in the workplace. I'm a former pharmacist, and I like to say that our service is an anxiolytic. An anxiolytic is something that reduces anxiety, whether it's a medication or whether you are meditating or whether you're letting someone take care of something for you, like any household chores that you may have. So women are feeling more confident and more empowered. Like, my employer cares for me so much that they want me to win when I'm at work and win when I'm at home. And right now that's blended. The home and the work is all in the same space. It allows people to focus. So part of what we're offering is the people are able, especially working moms, able to work when they can. And that might look like after I take the kids to school and in between, before I have to pick them up after school, but it could be after the kids are in bed, they'll be able to plug in. So they can think and provide any of their requests to our concierges at any time, and that'll be fulfilled. And that connection with a concierge is that helping hand, that friend at work.
So Tilly, there's some interesting chat and which asks about assumptions that this service can be used for both genders, and there's so many dads that are now the primary caregivers as women, as a family has made a choice, a lifestyle choice, right? So it goes without saying that your service is really for anyone that is in need of the service. I think probably a big issue that I see as I step back, right? 10 years ago, even, there was so much around employee resource groups or affinity groups. And this was one of companies' first reactions to have groups for working mothers or female leaders. And now, of course, there's, companies might have 8 or 10 different of these affinity groups. I think in terms of how, the connection between this session and ERGs, I think companies have moved beyond, we want to be talking about this and giving support to our employees, to we want to offer our employees infrastructure solutions, right? Mm-hmm. And Best Upon Request, we can, is one of those infrastructure solutions. It goes beyond the support to, this is how we think you can make that work-life balance more seamless in your family.
We like to say we're the great equalizer, and it could be by gender or by, I work in the cafeteria, environmental services, or in the C-suite. Everyone has a life and everyone has needs for support. And so whether it's a single dad who reaches out, or a manager who reaches out to someone and said, hey, have you asked the concierge to take care of that for you? Thanks for sharing that concern you have. And so that's how we can manage the work and the life that we bring to work, right?
Yes.
And so it's, I know in some of our instances, some of our prospects are coming out of ERGs. They're looking at working parent solutions. And then at the end of the day, do they have a sponsor who will take on a tangible, reasonable, usable service like ours and bring it on? Because it would be a new line item and they would have to feel convinced. Now, I can go to Teresa because she brought us on board at Fifth Third Bank, and she said it's because it was the right thing to do. That's bold leadership, and we need that urgently now. And so when an ERG brings it to an executive sponsor, well, that executive sponsor then say, we're doing this. Because a lot of times, and Teresa can share, she was around the room and everyone had wives at home. And so she said, you have a wife at home. That's not our population. And
Yeah.
so we need to have that bold leader who will say, you know what, we're going to put some investment dollars and make this happen. And then the results are incredible, increasing culture, creating a better talent pool, because people will say, I'm not leaving the bank because of this service.
Mhm.
And I want to dig into that story because I think it's such a powerful one. I mean, this is really, Teresa, an opportunity that you saw around female, basically your female leadership pipeline drying up. You made a comment when we were meeting the other week of women are often growing their families at the same time that they're growing their careers. And I think that resonates with a lot of us. And so you created not just a concierge program, but a maternity concierge program with Vest, and would love to just hear that experience and lessons about kind of that entree back into the workplace, because I think we're looking at that at a much broader scale now.
Yeah, sure. Well, so first of all, Jean, you're absolutely right. These are problems that need infrastructure solutions, right? We can't tweak around the edges. We have to really look at what kind of support infrastructure do we have in place? What kind of enabling infrastructure we need to put in place? And as a female executive that cares deeply about the female pipeline, I am so disappointed that we're not making the progress we need to make, and we don't have enough women at the top in leadership positions. And what I saw is that there is this incredible chaos that happens at mid-career, and we all know it, right? It happens for both men and women, but women are disproportionately juggling more, and we know that. And at that time when you're building a career and you're building your family at the same time, there's a lot of balls in the air. And what we see happen so often is, yes, there are those that just continue on this really fast-paced lane. Those individuals are usually people that have support infrastructure around them, right? Or they have resources to outsource things. The vast majority of people are just trying to keep it all together, and maybe they decide to downshift their career. Maybe they decide to leave their career altogether for a period of time. But it's what really happens at that mid-career that really has a negative impact on our talent pipeline. And I saw this at Fifth Third as well. And so when I first began talking to Tilly and her company, it was about, how do I give these individuals an extra set of hands, right? Some people can afford that, some people can't. How do we say, okay, you've got so many balls on your, in the air, let us take some for you. And even though we didn't even advertise it for women, we saw, I think it was over 70% of the women at Fifth Third, or of the people that were using the service at Fifth Third, were females. Okay, I understand that, of course. And then we also started saying, okay, what else is going on at that mid-career? And we saw that when women left to have a baby, the turnover rate, the people that left the workforce, was more than double those that weren't having babies. So we saw that as a significant tipping point, that if you went out and had a baby, went on maternity leave, your rate of not coming back was much, much higher than the general population. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And as I began to talk to these mothers, not all of them expected that would be the choice that they made. They just didn't know how to manage it all. So again, I went back to this great partner, Vest Upon Request, and said, how can we help solve this issue? And then Tilly and I began to co-create what is now the maternity concierge. And we had phenomenal results. In the first year, full year, turnover went down by 25%. And what we did was from the day that someone said they were pregnant until the time they left the company, we put that kind of special VIP concierge with that person to walk through the journey, to give them crackers when they were having morning sickness, and to help them shop for strollers, and to help them do thank you notes for their baby showers, to pack in the bag for the hospital, just everything in between. We helped that mother both during that journey and then the 1 year reentry back into the workforce. And it was huge. And it really just taught me that we need infrastructure solutions. I'm still worried about that mid-career chaos. I think we're not actively managing it, which is why I have left my corporate big job, my C-suite job, to work on that infrastructure. And now Reserve Squad is a solution that helps companies stay in relationship with these women that want to step out. So we know that 40% of all women will take a break from their career at some point. 74% of those women want to come back in traditional roles. And if you just from a talent management perspective take both of those statistics, you think, well, why are we not actively managing this talent pool, right? 40% are leaving, 74% are coming back. We're just losing touch with them. So what I do is I help a company insource a marketplace of talent that's made up of these women that want to just pause for a period of time. We keep them engaged with the company, let them know what's going on at the company. We put them on a training platform, and then they're able to bid on short-term jobs. So the company has this on-demand marketplace. And I heard that at the previous session, we were talking about that need, right, for that on-demand talent. Well, instead of going outside and getting that on-demand flexible talent, wouldn't you rather tap into a marketplace of talent that already knows you? They've worked for you, they know your products, they know your technology, and they know your customers. So that's what I'm doing now. And all of this is around how do we equip women and build the infrastructure where women have more choices and we are empowering them to thrive. So whether it's, through great services like concierge services that's given them extra ability, or my service that's given them extra choice of how to, this whole idea of on-ramps and off-ramps is not a good one, because there's a huge consequence when you go off that road. So let's not let them go off the road. Let's just create another lane and let people weave in and out of their career in a fluid way where they can meet different demands of their family at different life stages.
So interesting, Teresa. What percentage are men of your population?
Well, so we are brand new to market. So this is like a just launched solution. Yeah. So we're out there talking to companies. So we don't have a lot of data yet. I suspect, Jean, that even though, again, just like the concierge service, it's not that you can only be a reservist in the Reserve Squad if you're a woman, but we know that this benefit is disproportionately going to benefit women, just like the concierge, because right now, we are the ones that are kind of taking it on the chin. And we've seen that with the unemployment numbers of women this year.
I do. It's interesting, just to like an anecdote, and feel free to put in the chat if you your reaction to this, but we have members of Future Workplace. And I would say, of our female members, which are sort of mid-career HR talent and learning professionals, more than 50% have a partner who is at home managing, especially, the childcare and household infrastructure of the family, right? And what's interesting is that I've seen that movement from, that was probably that percentage was probably more likely at the higher levels, at a C-suite level. But that is now moving down into mid-career levels. So I just bring that out because it's an important market.
It is. And I hope that we do see more men stepping into those kind of roles, because then the world really does change for women, right?
Yeah.
If men and women both are participating equally in parenting and household duties, and are able to also approach their career in a more fluid perspective, that really does change the game for women.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Catherine, I know you have other important questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, there's never enough time for these conversations, but I think it would be amiss if I didn't. I mean, we've got executive leadership, founders of companies, CEOs of your organizations. All of you have, grown your companies. So I want to turn it back on you all from a personal perspective. I mean, when you think about kind of your ability to do the amazing things that you've done and have the accomplishments that you've had, I mean, what's been the key to success? Because I think these are good lessons as we are creating infrastructure and programs to support equally accomplished careers for women in our organizations.
Well, I would say I just celebrated my 25th year anniversary at Best. It's so hard to believe. And when I reflect on those 25 years and being CEO since 2003, what stands out for me was having courage. And courage, the root word of courage is corazón, because it's from my heart. It's from your heart where you get the courage. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't afraid or fearless. It meant I had maybe a little bit less fear because I was willing to I was willing to do the right thing. And it wasn't necessarily out of my head, like analytically, although I do have that, almost everybody does. When you think about, okay, why am I doing something? It's really about, I need to have an ROI. Well, no, it just seemed like what's the next right thing to do? And that takes heart. And so, especially last year, when I think about the pandemic, everything that we did in the past led us to survive and thrive and get through that hardship, because your true colors come out in adversity. So I would say that being bold, there's a famous saying that I love to share, that fortune favors the bold.
Yeah.
And how true it is with our companies or our organizations or our teams. And I think today it's urgently needed. We need leaders who get it. And I was so fortunate that Teresa and I were able to forge together a high trust relationship, that we were able to make a huge difference in the culture with her vision and our partnership to be able to serve the employees so that they could win at work and win at home. So it's been a really great story. And now Teresa's on my board of advisors. So I'm delighted to share that.
That's wonderful. Teresa?
Yeah, courage was the first word that came to my mind as well. I would expand on what Tilly said a little differently, maybe, is just, courage to have a voice, and to have a voice on the side of right, and to have integrity. And, I used to keep a little quote on my computer that I read every single day, and it said, never be afraid to be fired. Not for financial reasons, not for identity reasons, not for any reason, because the minute you are afraid to be fired, you lose the ability to speak your truth. And I just always loved that, because it always encouraged me to find my voice and to be courageous and, always respectful, always in the right way. But to be bold and challenge the status quo and really help give a voice not only to what I needed for my career, but also be a voice for others and amplify the voice of others. So I really think that for me, being able to find my voice was really important for my career. And it really helped me to find my leadership approach to advocating for others and helping drive positive change.
I love that. And Jean, you want to bring us home?
Yeah, no, I think it's very, very consistent with both Teresa and Tilly. I think I would say it's very similar to courage. For me, it's I push myself to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So I'm always one to try something new. And I remember when I decided I was going to write a book way back when I wrote my first book on corporate universities, I had never written anything in my life. So I just, when I decided if I saw something that I wanted to pursue, I was comfortable with being uncomfortable in a new situation. So I guess that's the theme of being courageous and finding your voice and sticking with it. And how about you, Catherine?
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to answer the questions here.
But
So I think, all of yours definitely ring true. I actually was going to wrap it together with one thing that I think has helped my success is having an incredible network, and being having sponsors and sponsoring other women too, and men. I mean, some of my best sponsors have been men who have pulled me up, pulled me into uncomfortable situations that I've had to do something I've never done before, and I've succeeded. And so I think as organizations, we can find ways where we can, spotlight women in ways that they show courage, boldness, and I think that we all have a responsibility to do that for other women too. Well, thank you all. I appreciate hearing your thoughts. I know we could continue this conversation on. I think just thinking about the cultural pieces, what we can do individually to support women in the workplace, but also as organizations, putting in infrastructure. Both sides of those equations are equally important to make sure that women feel like they have a place in the organization and are supported. And Teresa, I love the thought of it doesn't have to be one end or the other end of the spectrum, that really we can create something in the middle too. And we have to be bold and think about new ways to solve this. So thank you all for your participation.
And thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Tilly and Teresa. These are, for those of you on the call, these are two really innovative companies that I encourage you to take a look at for your organizations. They are filling an important need in the workplace right now. So thank you for Tilly and Teresa for your leadership in recognizing the issues and really creating a company to address them.
Thanks, Jean.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure to be here today.